You're listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, where faith
and what's trending collide. Welcome to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. This is Eddie.
What's up, everyone? This is Miguel, and you are tuned in to the God Life Culture Podcast. We want to take this time to welcome you all. If this is your first time listening, we want to say welcome to our podcast. We hope that you enjoy today's conversation, that you go back and check out all of our previous episodes. And if you are a returning listener, we want to say welcome back, and we hope that you are ready to dive into our conversation today. Hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe. You can check us out on YouTube as well and watch our visuals on there. But we are back with a new episode. Yes. Last week, we released a season 1 throwback, right? Friend or foe. So if you haven't checked that out, that was a conversation we had in like 2018 or 2019, a few years back. You can definitely go and check that out. But today, we are back with a new topic and a new conversation.
Yeah, which is an interesting one that a lot of people may think that is like unnecessary. Yeah. But I do think it's very necessary, especially, all of us that, have our home churches go through seasons of where it's just the people that are there. And then you go through a season where you get a lot of new people that are just visiting. Yeah. And then new people that actually establish themselves as members of your church. And I think that, with the visiting people that you see randomly, there's certain things that you kind of already know. Like you just say hi, make them feel welcome. Then, you kind of keep it pumping because you don't want to like overbear them. But when you have new people that are establishing themselves as wanting to be part of the church, wanting to be part of the church community, I feel like there's certain things that the OG people should be mindful of in doing to kind of help these people acclimate, feel welcomed, and all those great things. So I think that's really where the conversation for today is going to head into. One of the things that I always think is very important for people to do, especially people in leadership. At the end of the day, everybody can do this, which is introducing themselves to the new people. But I think especially people of leadership should introduce themselves with not only what their name is, but also, hi, I am part of this team, or I am the leader of X team, or I do this, or I do that. Because it kind of creates a familiarity with who's part of what. If I had a question in reference to a certain department in the church, who would I go to? Now they already have a contact person for that. So I think that definitely like being able to like, hi, my name is Eddie. I am part of this team and that team. If you're one of those that are part of a lot of things, or I'm just part of this or whatever, if you have any questions or if you're interested in joining or whatever, I think that's very important to do off the bat.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, the idea of meeting new people and introducing yourself to new people is always scary for some. Yeah. Right. There are some people that is like their worst fear, having to introduce themselves to someone, speak to someone they don't know. So all of that in of itself is something that is uncomfortable for many people. Right. So then if you put yourself in the position of a newcomer going to a new church with people they've never met before, right? That is a scary experience all by itself. The idea of going to a new environment, a new place. Now top it off with everyone there is already established. Everyone already has their friend group. Everyone already knows each other, and you're the new family, or you're the new guy, or you're the new girl that steps into a place that everyone knows each other. That's scary. But then you look at the other side where you are a church and you are used to your people, you're used to your friend group, you're used to, the people that you talk to and share with, and here comes a new person. Yeah. A new girl, a new guy, a new family, children, right? How do you present yourself and introduce yourself and make them feel welcome and make them feel accepted in this church community and make them feel like, hey, there's a seat for you here, right? You can sit at our table. Hey, we'd love to have you join us and be a part of us. How do you do that without coming across super desperate, super clingy, right? How do you do that without coming across weird or awkward? And how do you yourself just build up the confidence to go and walk up to someone shake their hand, look at them in the eye, and just introduce yourself, right?
Yeah.
All of those things are very uncomfortable for people. It's uncomfortable to put yourself out there. And I think a lot of times the reason why people don't do that all the time, one is, again, having to break through the wall of everyone knows each other here. And here I come, the outsider, the new person coming in to break something that may be already established, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to just, go into a space where everyone's close and I have to find my tribe and find my people. You know what I mean? That in itself is hard, right? And you need to have that confidence to just be like, I have to break through that. I have to kind of put myself out there, and it's a risk.
Yeah.
Because it could fall flat. You could go and try to meet and introduce yourself to someone and it not go very well.
Yeah.
Or that first, impression is everything and you totally tripped, fell, stumbled over your words, got nervous, said the wrong name, asked the wrong question. So I think it's having to surpass all of those fears and worries, in order to really introduce yourself and meet new people.
Yeah, and you have to go through the fumbles. I remember recently, over the summer, we got a new family that started visiting our church, and I went up to them and I was introducing myself, and one of the things I was speaking to them about was Sunday school, for example. I think it's a very known fact we teach Sunday school.
Yes.
And the mom asked me the curriculum that we teach. And this is a curriculum that I look at every week, that I read every week. I go on the website every week, and all of a sudden I had a blank. I was like, the name of it is something ministry grid, and I was just like, I'm fumbling all over the place, and I was like, what a myself internally, I'm like, what a doofus! You forgot the name of the curriculum you teach every week, and it happens, unfortunately, in the spot or whatever. Maybe you're thinking about something else, or you just randomly have moments like that where you draw a blank, and you have to pivot. And you have to be like, listen, I completely forgot, and I didn't have my phone on me. My kids had the phone, so I couldn't even be like, oh, let me just look it up real quick. But those are things that just happen, and I think that if anything, it creates it's just a funny moment that happens in those interactions to kind of ease the tension also, where maybe the other person was feeling nervous and like was feeling interrogated or whatever. And then, things like that do happen. You don't, and you just got to roll with the punches when stuff like that happens, just because humanly you sometimes draw a blank or you make a mistake or you just forget a random information that you're supposed to have at the tip of your tongue.
So I ask you, what curriculum do you teach from?
I couldn't tell you. No, I'm just playing. We teach off of Ministry Grid. And then we use the subtitle of it.
He doesn't know what it is.
I still don't know what it is. I forgot again.
Ministry Grid is what we use to log into it. That's
why. We go in through Ministry Grid and
the Gospel
live
Project.
And so
by Lifeway.
By Lifeway, the Gospel Project.
But it's a lot. It's a lot of different
it's a lot of
titles and stuff. So it's complicated. But I feel you. I mean, those are things that, again, because you're so used to it, right? And no one is really asking you on a daily basis, what's the name of the curriculum, right? So it's something that you kind of, it because you access it every day, you're reading, but it's not off the top of your head, right? So these are things that, again, when new people come, you almost have to have like, okay, we teach from this curriculum, these are the age groups. That something similar happened to me. I think with that same family that came, and then another group that came like a while back where I didn't know their kids. I was like, oh, what grade are you in? And one was like 3rd, the other one was like 5th, and I was like,
where do they go?
Which class do they go to?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then I'm going like, okay, this one's in this grade, so they go there. And I'm like, but these are things that we should just know, right? But again, when they catch you in the moment like that, sometimes you have to just take a minute, reflect, and be like, okay, all right, you belong in this group, you belong in that group. So it's difficult at times, right?
Yeah.
And again, all of those things, there's a grace when first impressions, there's a grace that we have to have as well. But, again, when you are introduced to just new people in your life, in a church setting, right, and you are a leader, there is a certain expectation and accountability and information that you should know and that you should have. And if you forget, right, like I said, it's okay. Just make sure that the next time you remember, right? Just make sure that, you go back in that moment. It's like, okay, what is it? What's the age group again? What is it? Because you're bound to have more people come and ask you similar questions. So I feel like when it comes to meeting new people, especially within a church realm, you have to learn from your first experience, right? So let that first time be your first time and probably make it your last, right?
Yeah,
Where it's like the next time they ask me this, I'm going to know. I'm not going to be caught in that situation again, right? So there is a level of challenging yourself also to be ready for those questions, to be ready when someone asks you, what's the vision of your ministry? What's the mission of your ministry? What do you hope to accomplish?
Yeah. And I think that big concepts like that are things that you should definitely have in your back pocket. Sometimes with the other little things that are important, but you just forget because it's like one of those things that but you aren't constantly thinking about. I think there is a grace to forget those things. But if somebody's asking you about your church culture, if somebody's asking you about, your church's mission, what is it that you guys want to do? What is it that you're trying to achieve here and all this other stuff? You kind of have to have an idea of what that is, and if you don't, I think that also teaches you as an individual to be more in tune with what's actually happening in your church. I think that, for people that have been in certain churches basically their whole life or for years and years, they kind of like fall comfortable in like the way things move, and they just go with the wave. They just go with the flow of it, and they're not really in tune about that. And I think that, that's something that if you're listening right now, if someone random was to visit your church on Sunday, and you go to introduce yourself and they ask you, like, what is your church's mission? Like, what is it that you guys want to do? That's a hard question to answer if you've never thought about it. Yeah. You're going to be like, yeah, my pastor's right here. You can ask him. Right. You don't want to do that, but then you also don't want to answer randomly. Right. If you don't know the answer, don't make it up and be like, oh, I believe that our mission is to, you got to really like maneuver those things because you're going to have visitors that are very like, they're just very high. Hi, thank you for, introducing yourself and not ask a single thing. And then you're going to have people that will ask questions and
then you'll have the people that did their research prior to coming. Right.
It's
so
true.
They already know certain things and now they just want to seek more information. Right. So you'd be surprised when someone walks in and says, oh, I heard your children's ministry is this and you do this. Yeah. Right. Tell me more. Yes. And you're there like, whoa.
Yeah, because you've never been to a children's ministry.
We did that one time 9 years ago, right?
Well, hopefully not.
So it's one of those things where you have to make sure that you are connected. And I love that you said that because sometimes it is that test, right? To see, am I truly connected to what I do and the bigger picture, right? Of my church. And I think one of the things that when it comes to meeting new people that you can do when someone enters kind of your space or your environment, like your church, is for the first time, just welcome them. Yeah. Hey, glad to see you. Your name is, whatever. My name is. And then, glad you came today. Yep. And that's it, right? Enough, you got enough people doing that and welcoming them. It does make a difference, right? For that person. You don't need to start having elaborate conversations that first time. You don't need to start asking them about their hobbies and interests and all of that. Just simply introduce yourself, ask them for their name, tell them you're glad to see them, welcome, and you can keep it moving. Now, the next time they come, right? Now you can probably get a little bit more because now they've seen you. So once that ice is broken, it becomes easier to now engage with them the second time around. You know what I mean? And there are people that will say, no, first time you meet them, you got to make them want to come back. You're going to have to, you're going to have to do this or do that. Not all the time do you have to enter into conversation so deep and so, in depth. Sometimes it's just that hello, that smile, right? That makes the difference, that handshake, looking them in the eye, that will make someone say, hey, they were really welcoming there. They said hello, right? Yeah. They greeted me. They looked me in the eye. That sometimes is enough for someone to come back and give that space or that place that second chance, right? And just being like, I'm going to go back there and I'm going to see what else they're about. Now that's your opportunity to say, hey, glad to see you again, and, if they have kids, you can ask about the kids or ask them, so what brought you here? How'd you hear about us, right? That's like another good question. How did you hear about us? Was it social media? Did someone invite you? Were you Googling for a church? You know what I mean? And just finding out how they came to hear about you is then a very good next question.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. One of the things that I also think is very important is to just be mindful of them, period. In the sense of if you notice it's their first time at a Bible study group, if you notice it's their first time at the Sunday school, if you notice it's their first time at the youth service, if you notice it's their first time at whatever different thing that's happening, always going after like, hey, how was it? Did you enjoy that or whatever? We have a lot of new people. That's why, in case you haven't noticed, this is why this is coming up.
Yeah, and we talk from experience.
Yes, yeah.
So
the other day they had to come to our Sunday school class a couple of times, and I was like, hey, are you enjoying Sunday school? Simple fact, like simple questions, like, hey, are you enjoying it? Are you having a good time? Are you understanding?
Yeah,
and stuff. Because sometimes it's good to check in, to make sure that they're not getting lost in the crowd of whatever's happening.
Yeah.
Number one. And then number two, sometimes they may have a different perspective that'll be very good for you as a teacher or as a leader or as the whatever, to see like, oh, you know what? I've never noticed that, because we've been doing this for such a long time that sometimes a different perspective is also helpful for you as well.
And you have to be okay with that new perspective.
Oh, yes.
You have to be okay with that, because, again, we could be teaching. A lot of our students have been our students since we started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
A year and a half ago, something like that. Yeah. Right. So when you start getting with this program, when you start getting new students and new people coming into your class, they don't have context to you. Mm-hmm. They don't know how you are, what you've done, what you've taught, your history. They don't know any of that. They just know what they saw in this class.
Yep.
So now when you ask them, hey, are you enjoying it? What did you like? What didn't you like? Be ready for their response and be okay accepting a new perspective, where they as a new person may come in and say, that, hey, I would really just love to have more visuals. And you may be like, well, I mean, I had the verse up there and I had a picture up there. You want more than that? I mean, I think that should be enough, right? You should be doing that. Yeah. It should be like, okay, what other visuals then can I include? Yep. How can I enhance this? So you as a leader or as a person already established within your church, you have to be okay with receiving that new perspective. And a lot of times it's not criticism, right? I think we interpret it as criticism when it's just a new idea or a suggestion, because we feel like we're pros, right? We're master teachers, we're master people, we know what we're doing. And sometimes it's great to get that new perspective from someone that has never seen you before, heard you before, and it's brave to ask that question. It's brave to ask them, so what do you think, right? And not that, you live to cater and design everything you do for people's, kind of expectations of you, because odds are someone else may come and they'll say the complete opposite of what that person said. And then what? You're going to change your whole class again? Yeah. But again, you take the good with the bad. You take a little bit of here, a little bit of there. And again, as a teacher, talking about that example, you need to reach every student within your class, right? So it is your job to reach everyone. So just being okay with accepting that new perspective and those suggestions is key when you enter new environments or when people enter new environments.
Yeah, and I think it's also about being mindful. I think that, I don't know, I feel like sometimes people assume that new people are like, they come with like zero experience. Like, oh, you're new to this church, or you're new to God, so you don't know what a service structure looks like, or you don't know what this looks like. And a lot of times, these are people that are coming from different places because of whatever reason. They move from one state to another, so they already have experience with church structures. They already have experience with Sunday schools. They already have experience with music and sound and this and that. And what happens is that they have insight that maybe you don't have, that they can help you with.
Yeah.
You can't assume that the people that you're speaking with are people that have zero experience, zero anything, zero whatever. So sit down and just learn from us. Like, sometimes they're coming with a whole bunch of knowledge and information that brings value to what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it is important to have those conversations and to get that little feedback and stuff like that, and to wisely, when possible, start incorporating certain stuff. But it's not like, this person told you this, so automatically you're gonna uplift. Well, not uplift. What's it called? Upheave. There's a word. We're just gonna like throw everything out the window and just start over new.
Yeah.
Because someone told you something.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And I think it's also important when new people enter, right, a church, and it's your church, and it's, you're part of that church, that you don't bombard them, right? And when I say that you don't bombard them,
Upheave.
I mean, there we go.
The word I was right.
When you bombard someone, I mean in the sense of where you become then overwhelming, right? Overbearing, where it's like, you're not leaving them alone. You're following them everywhere. You want to introduce them to everyone and everybody. You're like, oh, come, let me take you here. Let me show you this. But
honestly, I think that that's where you need to have discernment.
Yeah.
Because there are people that do not like that.
Absolutely.
Me. I don't like the too much. Like, let me breathe. Let me, wean me in little by little. Yeah. But there are other people that they find joy in that.
Yeah.
In the attention, in the fact that people were very detailed with them, that they wanted to introduce them to everybody, that they wanted to show them everything, that they were very attentive to them. So you, as the leader or whoever, part of the greeting team, the greeting committee and all of that, have to be very like sensitive to the spirit when it comes to that. Because sometimes you have to give more. Yeah. You have to be very, very attentive because that's what those particular individuals need in that moment. And then there's other times where you got to like bring it back a bit because this person is overstimulated, overwhelmed. It's too much for them.
It's true.
So there isn't a formula that works for everybody.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. There isn't a clear-cut design to follow or step-by-step to follow because every situation is so different.
Yeah.
Every church culture is so different. Every church service is different. Yeah. You come on a Sunday and you come on a Thursday, completely different, right? So it's one of those things where you really need that discernment. And this is where I think it's that practical thing or it's that spiritual ideal that we're so tired of hearing oftentimes, but it's so true. You really need to pray and have that connection with the Lord to know how to handle these different situations. Yeah. You can't go and talk to everyone that comes in through your church doors in the same way. You can't treat them in the same way. You can't do the same thing that you did with the last new family because it worked for them, right? Every family is different. Every individual that walks in through your church doors is different. So you need to have the discernment and the ability to really lean on God and His Spirit to be able to show you how to welcome that family, how to acclimate that family. How do we draw them in? How do we get them to communicate more, talk more? We have individuals that will sometimes walk into church who, are very introverted and it's hard for them to just get out of that, shell that they're in and communicate and be open. Does that mean that you grab them and force them and bring them into the middle of the group and say, guys, this is Max and he's really shy, but we're going to welcome him anyway. Everybody give him a fist bump. Like, is that something that may be the last time you see little Max at your church? That's what I mean? So you just have to have that discernment to know, okay, how do we reach them? They seem to be coming. They seem to be liking what they see and what they're involved in, but they're still a little disconnected or they're a little still shy. They're still to themselves. How do we get to them? How do we reach them? And you really have to rely on the Spirit of God and those around you, right, to come up with ways to reach those people. Because it's not going to be, okay, let's open up to page 7, step number 6. For those individuals who don't like to speak, this is what you do, right? It's not clear cut like that. So it's one of those things where it is challenging, especially when you're not used to it, especially when you're not used to greeting new people or having new people enter your space, having new people enter, what you do. It can be difficult, right?
Especially if you're someone that's on the go. Because I feel like, my perspective always is that it's difficult for me only because I'm always on the go. You know, it's like I have the 2 kids and I got to go here and I got to go do that and I got to go fix this and I got to go or whatever. And sometimes I have to remind myself, take a minute. Say hi to the people around you. I have issues with that with people that are my friends. Where because I'm always on the go, it's kind of like, all right, bye, and I keep it moving.
We literally, last week, we had a moment like that. Where we were both on the go and saw each other from far. We did a point, a wave, and kept it moving. Right? Like so imagine then entering, and then there's new people there, and you just walked by the whole family. And did it, and that's really good that you say that, because you have to stop. You have to stop and be like, okay, like I can make this copy later, or I can do that in a minute. Let me just stop
try
and
to be conscious of it, because it can come off very bad. And even though that's not my intention, even though I'm not like purposely ignoring people or whatever, it's like I'm on the go, my kid is running, I gotta go catch him, I can't stop or whatever. But you have to figure out. So even if you have to do a double back, you did pass them, you grab the kid, come back with the kid screaming and everything. They were like, oh, hi, I know I passed by, I just wanted to say hi, thank you. Those are things that I have to remind myself of, because those are things that I struggle with. Unfortunately, I'm human.
And I think it's important to remember that one experience with that one person or that situation you saw, someone passed by with their child, didn't even say hi to you, you know, you can't, if you are the new person in that environment, you can't take that and hold it against them. You can't make an assumption based on that one encounter. And this is something that we're all guilty of. We go somewhere one time, we see something we don't like one time, and we've already labeled that person, we've labeled that group, we've labeled that church, right? sometimes you catch people at awkward moments or the wrong moment. Sometimes someone is sick. Sometimes someone isn't feeling well. And I think that, it's easy when it comes to the church for us to take that one moment or that one bad encounter we had someone or that one thing we saw in someone that we didn't like, and we come up with 10 assumptions about that person. We judge them. We come up with a conclusion. We believe it. And now we move on believing that thing based off of that one interaction or thing we saw. Yeah. And that's not always fair, right? So I think that the enemy also likes to use that to get you in that place of stay away from that person. Don't even talk to them. They're like this. They're prideful. They're stuck up. Look, they didn't even say hi to you. They didn't even look at you, right? Yeah. And you can miss out on potential friendships and relationships because you're listening to the voice of the enemy based off of an assumption you created about one moment. Yeah. And that's not always fair, to do that for either party, right? No, absolutely. For both sides involved.
Listen, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a topic that we can go on and on about. But I think that the biggest thing is about being intentional. Yeah. Being intentional with making people feel welcome, being intentional with making sure that people are informed. They know when service starts, what time, what day is youth service, what day is kids ministry, what day is this, what day is that. And then just always being aware in case they look like they're struggling. Hey, are you okay? Everything's good. And that's just really like the groundwork for that. After that, you build relationships, you work with them in certain ministries and certain teams, and then you keep growing from there. But I think initially it's all about the introduction. Yeah. It's about well-equipping them to get an idea of what your church culture is like, so that then they can acclimate accordingly.
Yeah, and you may not be able to have that full-blown conversation the first time they come, right?
True.
But your church should have certain things in place where then you catch them in an informal setting, right? Yeah. So they attend a small group that's in someone's home, or they attend a youth event that's outside, or they attend, some type of event that's not within a church service that you are then able to share, and they're able to see you in a different setting where it's easier to talk to them. It's easier to engage with them, right? It's always that first time that you have to surpass. Yeah. You have to surpass the awkwardness of the first time, have to surpass the insecurities of meeting someone for the first time. And after that, as you keep saying hello, as you keep putting yourself out there, as you keep introducing yourself if you're the new person, right? And trying to meet new people, or if you are the person that's been there and now you are welcoming a new person or a new family, right? You have to surpass that first time, keep saying hello, keep greeting them. After a while, right, it becomes easier to share. It becomes easier to have those experiences with them and learn more about them, right? Yeah. You don't want to whip out your clipboard and start interrogating them and asking them all the questions the first time, right? Yeah. You can do that as the days and as the weeks go on.
No, absolutely. And on top of the informal stuff, as a church, you should have a formal thing too. You know, like, the pastor sit down with them, have conversations with them, get some, history from them. Yeah. You give them history as well, and you have those meetings as well. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, we can keep rambling about things that can be done. But off the bat, I think the important thing is the introduction part. Give them the information, make them feel welcomed, and take it from there.
Absolutely. So go out there and meet someone new. If you're that person that's debating on whether you attend that church, go back to that church, you're looking for a church, take that step, be bold, take that risk. And again, if you are the person welcoming someone, welcome them, embrace them, and do all the things that we spoke about for sure. So definitely, we thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram at God Life Culture Podcast. Check us out on YouTube as well. Be sure to subscribe so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode, and we will catch you in our next episode.
Yeah, so thank you once again for tuning into the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. That's God Life Culture. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.